I've talked about a few franchises that went through painful demise, but today is a bit different. It's a franchise that is very old and has a very strong following, and is one of the most absurd and outlandish series I've ever seen, and that is the Magic Roundabout franchise. Now for those in the US, you might not have heard of this franchise, but you most likely know its movie's US version known as Dogle, which is infamous for being one of the most hated animated films of all time, and it's understandable that you didn't know about the original series. But the Magic Roundabout franchise is truly a weird and interesting case. It started off as a beloved stop-motion television series, but then got brought back in the 2000s as a CGI animated franchise in the form of the 2005 film. Its US dub and the short-lived CGI spin-off series under the same name of Magic Roundabout, and then just disappearing completely and leaving the zeitgeist without ever making a comeback of any kind. But how did such a weird and unique franchise go through such motions to get a second chance to make an impact on 21st century kids only to get swept under the rug and forgotten? Well, let's talk about the slow death of the Magic Roundabout franchise. The original show started all the way back in October 1965 under the French name La Ménage Enchanté, and it was eventually taken to the UK. The original was difficult to translate, so they created their own scripts and stories for the show, and it immediately became a success. People found the characters charming and delightful, and the world incredibly inventive. It lasted on BBC until 1977, but did get a feature film Dogle and the Blue Cat using the stop motion of the show. The franchise wouldn't be brought back until the 2000s when a studio called Action Synthesis decided to reboot the series into a CGI film under the name The Magic Roundabout. The plot about the characters from the original show: Dogle the dog, Ermintrude the cow, Brian the snail, Dylan the rabbit, and a talking train going on a quest to retrieve 3 diamonds to stop an evil slinky wizard known as Zebat in order to save Dogle's owner Florence and the rest of the town, who are trapped in the titular roundabout because of Dogle's mishaps trying to get some candy. When the movie came out in 2005, it got mixed reviews from critics and audiences and wasn't exactly beloved. People didn't hate it, but they also weren't impressed by it. The general consensus was that this was a fine family film. It wasn't terrible, but wasn't anything special. It was just okay. But things would only get worse for the franchise as one of Hollywood's biggest monsters would secure the rights to distribute an American version of the animated film, and made it so much worse by adding unnecessary pop culture references, making the characters more unlikable, and writing some of the cringiest dialogue ever in an animated film. While initially he brought on Butch Hartman of Fairly Odd Parents fame to write a re-dub, according to him, most of his draft got thrown out and only 3% made it in. Although knowing Butch, he's probably not telling the truth, but regardless, in 2006, the US version of the Magic Roundabout movie, Dogle, was released and was a catastrophe. It was destroyed by critics and audiences and massively bombed at the box office. While there were plans for sequels to both versions already planned at Action Synthesis, the plans to turn this into a prominent franchise were immediately killed. The franchise didn't completely die though. In 2007, Action Synthesis made one final attempt to spark some life back into the franchise by producing an animated TV series with the film's CGI animation and designs. And if you haven't heard of this show, that's because it mostly aired in Europe, on Nickelodeon and Disney Channel over there. It got 2 seasons, but the show was not enough to save the franchise. By the end of season 2, Action Synthesis ceased production and the franchise was officially dead. In 2013, Action Synthesis shut down for good, and since then the franchise has remained dead and dormant ever since it ended. So, why did the Magic Roundabout franchise die? Now usually the culprit is the studio's decision to release a movie at a stupid time when it has no chance of success, thus resulting in the franchise dying and falling into obscurity, or not marketing it well. Thus the film gets lost in translation and nobody goes out to see it. But in this case, I don't think there really is a major factor in the failure of the movies other than they just weren't good movies. And while the 2005 film wasn't hated, it wasn't loved and nobody liked Dogle, so I don't think there really is a particular reason that the films failed other than the quality. After all, Dogle was released in February, which really had no competition outside of maybe the December blockbusters of 2005 like Narnia, but other than that, the film had every chance to be a success and gain an audience. But because the film was so low quality and nobody that saw it liked it, they didn't bother with it and decided to spend their time and money on other things. And even though it's sad the franchise never lived up to its full potential, I don't blame them for not giving it a chance. Honestly, the only thing they could have done to preserve the future of this franchise is just make a better movie, or at least make it more enjoyable. But the Weinstein Company was only concerned about making a profit off this movie and trying to gain traction in the animation industry with this and hoodwinked to compete with Pixar and DreamWorks, and because of that they neglected to make sure this movie was attractive to audiences, and just threw it out there hoping it would be a success when it ended up becoming nothing but an embarrassing failure, and this is the sad legacy of this movie and this entire franchise. Anyways guys, what do you think? Let me know down in the comments, and I'll see you guys later.